welcome to Some of the World. I'm Simon, and today I've got something very different. Different in as far as the video you're going to see is the first time that I've used my new computer and my new editing software. The video that you're going to see is the first time that this has been seen and is pre-YouTube channel, filmed March 2021. Whilst I was filming it, I didn't even know I was going to have a YouTube when I started to film this, and I filmed it all on a GoPro 4. Thus, you've never seen the video because I can't edit anything that comes off of a GoPro. Now I can. Now I can. And I did it with a herniated disc. So I've cut out all the bad bits that show me in an incredible amount of pain. Should I have been doing it then? No, don't need to criticise now because that is also pre-surgery. So I had just finished 4 months of restructuring the main roof on this huge building manually, by hand, jacking it up, replacing it, saving it after years of neglect. Then I filmed this video. The reason I crashed a snowmobile was because my back was so bad I couldn't actually control it. And just a couple of weeks after I filmed this, that herniated disc ruptured and I was paralysed. And I was paralysed for weeks until surgery. Why has this come to light now? Because I have once again hurt my back, but only a little bit this time, and I'm on compulsory rest, having just spent 5-6 straight days in the snowplow. So I'm in the editing suite, and this is the first one of all the thousands of hours of videos that I've got, which nobody's ever seen before, because now I have time to sit in my editing suite and do nothing but edit up all the videos I haven't had time to do. And it's nearly Christmas. It's the 19th of December. So if I don't get an opportunity before, you all have a very Merry Christmas and enjoy the video. Right, so behind me we have my 2005 RS Viking 1000cc triple 4-stroke. What I use that for is forest work, so it hauls all my equipment into the forest, and then when I'm done the logging, it hauls all the logs on the trailer or on the sled back into the yard. It's wide track, it's powerful, it's absolutely fit for purpose, and when the trails are broken you cannot get a better machine. This is the ultimate pull a house down machine. However, when you're breaking trails, especially in soft snow, it can be quite difficult to get it to go exactly where you want it to go. And this year was an exception to the rule. Because I was busy doing other things, I didn't break the trail at the beginning of the winter. Big mistake. So, on my first trip out, I already had a metre of snow, soft powder snow to deal with. And I had to cut a new route directly through the forest, not on a trail I'd used before. And unfortunately, I hit every tree. Managed to break the trail and get back here, park it up. 2 days later, got back on it to go and break some more trails, and I noticed it wasn't handling right. So I'll show you what I've done. Now I have already taken all the bolts out of this so that we can see. We can pull that off. Right, so I must have hit a tree on this side somewhere. I don't recall, but anyway, I did. Now, unfortunately, the part of the machine that holds the lower swing arm in place is cast aluminium, not steel. And you can see I've snapped that completely, which is a shame, because if it had been steel, I could have welded it, done something around it, but it's cast aluminium. There's nothing I can do about that. In addition to that, I've bent the upper and lower control arms. So both the upper control arm is pushed this way and this is bent here. The lower control arm is also bent here and over here. Now, I don't have enough money to replace all of this, not even close, so I can't. I have ordered one of these, which is an arm and a leg. In fact, I think it was both my legs and one of my arms. Anyway, that is waiting for me in town, which is a trip in itself. So I'm going to start dismantling this and get these upper and lower control arms off so I can see the extent of the damage. I mean, you can see this plate's bent here. The way that the paint is cracked off, it's very clearly bent. I can't see any cracks in the welds, although this doesn't worry me because I can re-weld it, but the paint is very flaky. So we're going to attempt to get all this off, dismantle it, and then heat and try and do something with the upper and lower control arms. Okay, so air box is off, front nose cone is off, outer plastic shroud here is off. The bonnet is obviously gone, boot, hood, whatever you call it, that's off. So first issue is rivets. Holding this bit of plastic on are these large head aluminium rivets. There's 6 of them. I've got to drill them to get it off. I've been doing a lot of this off camera simply because I'm 3 weeks recovering from a slip disc, and it's slow and painful. So underneath, well, I'll see if I can show you down there, the part we want off is also riveted. So whilst we have rivets and a rivet gun, we don't have that size. So the next thing I'm going to do is drill out all these rivets here and get this plastic shroud off, and then we can disassemble the shock, steering arm linkage, and then we'll see if we can get these, take the ski off, get the upper and lower control arms out if we can, and then we can have a look and see exactly how this casing here, and the casing of course goes all the way up through here, and it looks to go in there. You can't see, it's too dark. So we'll get this bit of plastic off first and then we'll revisit this, but it looks like it also is part of the engine mounting, which is what I was hoping it wasn't, but I'm pretty sure it is. So okay, I'll show you where we're up to and what's what. You can see how bent this is now. But this has an inner shaft and it's rusted in. So I'm having trouble extracting that bolt, and exactly the same with the bolt below it. So I've unbolted this at the top here, through here, and I've tried to do the same, only you can see from the head I am not the first person in here. I am not the first man to have this apart. You can't see, but right down in there is the other end of this bolt, which also won't come undone, and nor can I get into. So I've soaked these down with the old WD-40, and I'm going to leave those for a bit. But the more I'm taking it apart, the more I'm really realising what a massive job this is. So in addition to rivets being underneath, this member, this cross chassis member here, is also riveted from both sides, in and out. I've got a nasty feeling, I've got a very nasty feeling that I have to take the engine and all this out. It is now 2 days later, because yesterday I had to go to town to get the new part. This there, this is the new part. Okay, we've got some pop rivets there to put it back together, so we've got that. And this morning I had another emergency issue I had to deal with. So we've got this stripped down, we've got the clutch off, we've got the battery out now, we got the ski off. Now this is so badly bent, I've kind of had to take it off with the arms. It's not in a good way, but anyway, we're not there. So the lower arm, the problem is with the lower arm, and this is a bit we couldn't see yesterday. My head torch has just stopped. Right, there's a bolt in there, a nut in there. and it's partially rounded and I can't get on it. Also, this steering arm's got to come off, and I thought I had a small ball joint splitter in there to get that out, and I can't find it, or I haven't, and I can't lever it because the steering arm there is aluminium, and we're just going to snap that cast, obviously. So now what we're going to do is start undoing the bolts all the way around, and once I've got those off, then I'm going to take off the rivets that I can see connecting this to this side strut. This is an engine mount. These are just other supporting nuts. And then we're going to have to get underneath here and strip out those rivets. We've got a lot of the bolts undone. We had 2 bolts down in here. Now, unfortunately, they're on rods, long bolts. They go all the way through. I couldn't get to this one because that swinging arm was in the way. So I've taken out the battery carriage, various modules, and now I've got more room to work, as you can see. Oh, head torch. Whilst I was in here, there you go. I thought I had play in the steering. Well, no, I knew I had play in the steering. Anyhow, so we've had to go to this side and drop the lower control arm in order that we can get into there. So you have to do that anyway. So even though it doesn't say so in the destruction manual, before you start embarking on this, take out the battery and the battery carriage and the module that sits in there, and then that will give you better access down to there. And in order to make sure I'm removing the right rivets, I got the new section, and that there shows me which rivets I have to remove onto there and which rivets underneath I have to remove under there. So I'm now working on removing the rivets, and then she should come out. So we'll carry on removing those rivets, and I'm drilling them out and punching them through, and the ones that are on in reverse, then I'm chiseling them off and then pushing the head through. This was obviously assembled, the chassis was assembled with the engine out. Yeah, well, I'm not taking the engine out, so we're going to assemble them in reverse. Okay, it's day 4 now. We had yesterday, we've got this weird melt going on. I don't know if you can see out the window. We had this last year, middle of winter, weird melt, snow slides off the roofs. Anyway, so I spent all day yesterday clearing up snow that blocked all the roads. So I've had to do something I really didn't want to do, and that's manhandle this section off. So I have literally just pulled it off. Now, where this is sat in here, there's 2 bolts coming out here, like so. What have I done with them? There we go. Like that. And these 2 coming out this way. Now, whilst the rest of them holding this on slid straight through, these are fixed. So you can't pull this way and this way, and I can't take this section out without unpop riveting all this and disassembling the whole other side and taking all this out and pulling the engine out. Right, that's how it's made. So I've had to cut those off, and my plan here is then to re-drill these and tap them and put bolts in. And then I had to pull them over this and this little tag here. This goes behind anyway. So I've manhandled it off. So my next job is to take off the steering link, and pop rivet the steering link gaiter. So I've got that, clean all this up, and then we'll offer up the new piece and see how we're going to put that back in, because we're not going to be able to manhandle that one in like we got this one out. Drill a couple of pilot holes through there. Nice, very nice. There you go. Right. That's so that has to sit inside of that, like so. Bit of a faux pas. Battery went flat. Anyway, while the battery was charging, I put the new section in. Now, I'm assuming because everything was slightly bent the way I levered the old one out, and this was the issue, you can see this is behind here, and these go on here, and them lugs went into there, which is why I had to cut those so I could get some lateral movement. But this won't come out because it's behind here. So you really have to use a huge breaker bar, bend that down and that up slightly, enough for that to slip under and it can pull out. And I put it in back in the same way, but it went in a lot easier, and you can see it's slightly out of line. Not a lot, not enough that we won't be able to get it back in. So we can now, you know, I think the first thing to do is actually line up all the holes and pop rivet the chassis back together underneath there. Can't hold the camera, leave it that, and get me back in the right position to see if I can put that like that. Although I suspect the sun is going to have something to say about that. Yeah, there's that one. Let's put that one in first. That's a bit of a key rivet, that. Right. They all look to be quite tight in there. So, let's first of all get one of these done up. Oh, Christ. These are hard. There. So I've got the underneath in. We're all pop riveted up there, and I've wiggled it around with a screwdriver and managed to get all those pop rivets in there. We'll start at the bottom where it's tight and then work our way up, pulling that in so that it's tight. Do this one first. There. Right, very nice. Like it. There you go. That's the chassis buttoned back up. There we go. And reminding you, this was the part that was broken. So now we can replace this nut and this nut. We can put this shaft and this shaft through, and then put the other side lower swing arm back up. And then we can start aligning all these nuts up here, put the thread in for the engine mount, and start reassembling it. Oh, I hit my head on that. Okay, so we've now got the bolts running through here. We've got the two studs that we cut off, drilled and tapped. Those bolts are back in. All the rivets are in, chassis is done, gate is on, steering arm is in. Inside here we put the battery carriage back in. I put the clutch back on. I've put everything back on that needs to go into there. I've put the shroud on and the crash bar on the front and the electric modules. I've hung the shock absorber to try and give me a bit of a reference point, and done everything that I need to do in there, with the exception of tightening up the two large bolts, rods, shafts that hold on the upper and lower swing arms or the A-frames. So at the moment what I've got is this upper A-bar here bent. The bolt is bent in there. This fixes the lower A-bar to the lower swivel. This is also bent with its shaft. So I've got to start somewhere. So we're going to start with the lower A-bar, which I've moved my welding bench into a more suitable place. So we're going to work in the middle of the factory now. And I've got some lights set up so we can see what we're doing in here, because the lighting's okay, but it's no good for filming. So my welding bench normally sits over there, but I've moved it here, and this is what we've got. So this bar is supposed to be straight, and this bar is supposed to be straight, whilst they're welded slightly at an angle. And not only is it not straight, well, it's not straight in any direction. So we've got a bend here. You can see the strengthening brackets bent. That one's bent down, that one's bent up, and we can see where the paint has come off here, which is where the bend is. Now the second bend is this bend here. Right, so if we look at it, that tells me that the impact was there, and it's bent that one that way and that one that way. We have to straighten this. We have to straighten that bar this way, and then we have to straighten that end that way, and then we have to straighten it down to match this one, because this is where all the connection points are. This bracket and this bracket are slightly twisted, but this end here is also slightly twisted. So we kind of got to move all that and get them straight in line, which you can, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough, you can see that is not straight in line. We need to get that straight in line. Those two there are straight in line. That is these are the lower shock absorber holder. And we've got to move all this over and then line it all back up and then recreate our 73mm gap there. I don't know what the gap is there. I have to measure the bar that goes in there. So as I see it, we've got two options. We can weld this to the bench like that. In fact, we will actually weld it this way and pull everything that way. I've got a 1.5 ton block there, which will do the job very nicely. Or we can attempt to put it into the vise and do some of the bending that way. So I think to start with, we're going to put it in the vise. It's not heavy. I'm still recovering from that slip disc. Let's try some heat first. we've straightened this bend here. Now we've got to try and straighten this bend here. I've kind of got that hooked in. It looks like it could slip and have an accident, but anyway. So we're going to try first. So we're going to heat this section here, and then we're going to see if we can straighten it. No, that's going to fly out. Let's reset that before it does. Looks like it's going to... I can see that's bending where I don't want it to bend. Set this properly. That's it, all set. Go again. That looks like a slight overbend. So look at that. Look at that, yes. Not perfect yet, but better than it was. So that looks pretty straight down there now. The gap's a little bit bigger than it should be, and these brackets here are out of line, but that is considerably better than it was. Okay. Well, I have a saying here, and I've only ever had the saying since I've been here. What ain't broke is waiting to break. And the amount of times that I put something somewhere, stopped something, parked something, gone back and it's broke. So everything is waiting to break all the time. What I wasn't expecting was that. Okay, so this was my lovely old Vice, which I reclaimed from the skip, and it's done really well for light work. However, you can see, oh, that's hot. Ah dear, that's the wrong glove. Hands have gone all over the place. Right, you can see my lovely old reclaimed skip, reclaimed Vice. That's it, finished. Now we can do with that. So now we're going to have a rethink how we're going to finish bending this bar. We've still got another one to bend, because that is that's done. Okay, so I've changed the Vice out for the Vice that was on my joinery bench. No, it's not a joinery Vice. It's definitely a metalworking Vice. This one is steel, welded, not cast. So this don't break either. So as you can see off camera, I've managed to get the main bolt through there and a bit of hardened steel in there. And you can see, well I can see, so I'm assuming you can see, I've got to put some heat into here, changed for map gas, and just put a slight bend on it just to align it a little better. So that is what we're going to do. Let's hope nothing else breaks. And nothing kinks. So we don't straighten too much. Not perfect, but better. Yeah. I don't know if I can. Still a little bit out of line, that one is. I don't know if I can do it any better than that or not. That's not going through there as well as I'd like, that's for sure. It's got a bit of a... This is the upper A arm, upper control arm, and this is in a bit of a mess. So this is bent here this way, like this. That's kinked. Not happy about that. Think I can pull it out. So we've got to straighten all of this up. Now what you didn't see is where that goes in relation to what we've done. So we straightened the lower A arm out, and because I keep forgetting about the camera, I've actually set to and fitted this one, which went considerably smoother than I thought. In fact, it went very smooth. So that's now bolted all the way through there, and the shock absorber is bolted into the bottom. So all that bending of those lower brackets we did, right, that's all worked. So that's in and where it should be. The upper control arm is worse, but it hasn't got these reinforcing brackets and it's considerably thinner. So what I've done is I've looked at this side to see at what angle this comes off of there, like that. 17 degrees and that's 90 degrees. So we're going to start by putting the 90. That's correct, and obviously this one is not. So we're going to heat this up and bend that to 17 degrees and try and bend this to 90 degrees, and at that point we'll try and take this kink out of this. Good job. Right, they are now level, so now we're going to take this kink out. If I'm just going to bend this straight, this is going to want to snap here. So we'll have to bend it a little bit and then squeeze it a little bit and try and keep the oval of the tube as much as we can. So if we just bend that straight, it will just snap straight across there. If we bend it a little bit and then squeeze it a little bit, it will kind of keep that oval. Okay, so we've got it better than it was, but now we need to do the final bit of a lining, and I've gone and compared it to the other one, and all the alignment is out on this one. So I said we'd gone past where we needed to be, and we have. So that needs to be bent, not a lot but slightly back, and then slightly forwards, so that it matches up with that one, which quite at the moment it doesn't. So we're going to heat that and bend it so it does match. Well, we're getting there. Not only are we getting there, we've taken the kink out the bottom of that oval and pretty well maintained the integrity of the shape, which is its strength, of course. We're a little bit out of line, but we're definitely getting there. And of course this one is slightly past where it needs to be. So we can bend this one down and that back, but it's time to go and get the bolt now and see how far out we are. Okay, after I'd finished bending all the frames, my lovely battery went flat again. I couldn't really wait, so I put it back together and it all went quite smoothly, considering how badly it was all bent. When I put this one on, I had to bend it slightly that way to get it in. Nuts, bolts, shafts all went in, steering linkage is connected. There was obviously a lot of bare metal. I didn't have any silver spray, I only had black. And now I've kind of just put a bit on there to protect the metal with a view to then getting the silver spray and finishing it off. I actually quite like the black. So I've got out some ends of the cans. I'm going to see if I've got enough just to tidy that up. Now at the moment I've only tracked the skis by measurement, not squared it from the rear track. So I'm going to do that when I get it on the floor, but I haven't moved the steering linkage bar, so it's just a case of checking. But yeah, she's all back together.